On this edition of Southern Newsweek, Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull says the wishes of his family are a driving force for his stepping down. The University of Otago celebrates its 150th year with a host of events. And noted New Zealand artist Dick Frizzell gifts a piece of art to a southern town. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull says the wishes of his family is behind his decision to relinquish the meal chains at the next local body election. Mayor Cull fronted local media recently, comfortable in his decision not to seek re-election in October.
They may not have come in their droves, but local media did turn out today to hear Dunedin Mayor Dave Cull explain why he's standing down rather than seeking re-election in October's local body elections.
I've come to the conclusion that after 3 years as a councillor and 9 years as mayor, given that I've got a significant birthday next year, I think it's time to lessen the workload a bit and spend some more quality time with my family.
The 69-year-old says there's two main reasons he won't be seeking a fourth term.
The wishes of my family, and from a personal point of view, did I think that in 2 years' time I would still be feeling like I was able to give the job what it requires, and would I still be enjoying it as much?
He was elected mayor in 2010 after voting against the building of Forsyth Bar Stadium as a councillor. The stadium was operational the following year, and despite being an opponent at the time, he doesn't regret voting no.
I think it's a wonderful asset to the city, and it's providing enormous benefits for the city. What I don't think is possible is to say it would have been better not to build it, or it definitely has justified itself, because it's completely hypothetical.
As for his replacement, so far only 3 candidates have put their hands up, but it's anticipated there will be other contenders, possibly including Cull's council sparring partner Lee Vandervis.
I don't think it would be a very wise decision on the part of the electorate.
Dave Cull says he'll continue in his role as President of Local Government New Zealand until July next year, the full stop on his political career. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The University of Otago is celebrating its sesquicentennial this year with a host of events. An exhibition covering the first 150 years of Otago University opened recently at the Otago Museum.
Oh, how the times have changed. From the foundation stones to the first Māori and female graduates, and to a model of the first mixed gender flat in 1967, then this recently filmed drone footage flyover. The University of Otago has seen a lot of change in its first 150 years, and curating the exhibition has been a learning curve as well as a 2-year labour of love for the woman overseeing the collection.
And as you can tell from my accent, I'm not from here. I was curious about why they asked me to tackle this challenge, and I think maybe part of it is that I don't come with a lot of baggage, and I could come in with fresh eyes and look and say. So I've spent a lot of the last 2 years talking and even more listening to people to collect stories.
Some items have travelled a considerable distance, including some from Antarctica and facial reconstruction models from Europe dating from the First World War. While she didn't want to pick out a favourite part of the exhibition, Longnecker says there's one piece of history which really grabbed her.
That in the early part of the 20th century, when hosts had guests over, one of the things that they might do was blindfold the guest and ask them to draw a pig in the pig book. And we have a pig book that was the property of Professor John Broughton from the dental school, his mother's pig book, that one of the guests that drew in there was Te Rangihirua when he visited the family home. And so in the exhibition, you can see the drawing, which looks a little bit more like a hippopotamus than a pig, but considering he was blindfolded, he did really well. And it's the drawing from Sir Peter Buck.
Working on the project in her spare time, Nancy Longnecker says there was so much they had to leave out, but she feels they have an accurate picture of the University of Otago from its beginnings to the present day.
This is not the end of the history of the University of Otago. This is just a snapshot of those first 150 years. So I'm sure that in another 50 years we will have a 200th anniversary and there will be more amazing stories to be told.
All facets of campus life are captured, from orientation to capping and many points in between, from scholastic to sporting and social exploits. The exhibition celebrating 150 years of Otago University opens tonight at the Otago Museum. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Governor-General Dame Patsy Reddy has praised the Otago Museum's redeveloped Science Centre as equally wonderful as Te Papa's costlier new multi-million-dollar nature gallery. Dame Patsy and her husband Sir David Gascoigne were given a guided tour of the redeveloped facility.
From the heavens to the earth. At the end of her more than an hour-long visit, Governor-General Dame Patsy Reddy enthusiastic about Otago Museum.
Now, having just been to the opening of the new nature exhibition at Te Papa, I can tell you it's wonderful, but you've got equally wonderful surprises.
Dame Patsy, accompanied by her husband Sir David Gascoigne, took in the sights in the planetarium before enjoying the warmth and colour of the Butterfly House. Museum Director Ian Griffin says her praise for the organisation reflects on the dedication of the staff.
And it was a real honour for some of our staff to show the Governor-General and Sir David around, and they gave us some lovely feedback. They compared it very favourably to the new gallery at Te Papa, so from our perspective that's really great, being up there with the best in the country.
While in the planetarium, the Queen's representative in New Zealand chatted with staff while watching Far From Frozen, an immersive documentary on the Antarctic co-produced by Natural History New Zealand.
Well, at the end she said it was hard to tell what the highlight was. She'd enjoyed it all so very much. So from my perspective that's great. We've got now hopefully a friend at the highest level of government who's going to sing our praises, and that's always a good thing.
The visitors were also given an update on the recent retrieval of fossilised moa footprints from a river in the Maniatoto, now being safeguarded at the museum. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A piece of civic art from a prominent New Zealand painter has been donated to the Lawrence Service Centre. Auckland artist Dick Frizzell was present at a ceremonial public unveiling of his limited edition print of the Otago town, all made possible by the gallivanting ladies of Lawrence.
The township of Lawrence as it was back in 1991 and as seen through the eye of noted Kiwiana pop artist Dick Frizzell. This print of his 2017 painting now housed in the Lawrence Public Library after an official unveiling this week. It was made possible by the donation of $3,000 thanks to the fundraising efforts of a group calling itself the Gallivanting Ladies of Lawrence.
We walked into the Matakana Gallery and right in the most prominent place was this painting. We couldn't believe it, and Sally at the gallery couldn't either. Here we were pointing out different buildings that are now gone, some that are still there and what they're used for now, and so it wasn't until we come away we thought, well, this has got to be back in Lawrence.
They hatched a plan to bring it home, although the original $100,000 painting was slightly out of reach, so they settled for a print instead.
Because we started purchasing this in November, and I don't think any of us taken 6 months to gradually get the funds, but each time we put it in the bank, another 100 off, another 50 off, until finally, and then Dick come to the party right at the end, so we were over the moon.
Frizzell took a photo of the scene back in 1991 after seeing it on television, but didn't begin painting it until just 2 years ago. On completing it, he received helpful critique from his mate Tahir at the local service station, who told him he needed something living in the painting.
He said, "There's no people." And I said, "Oh, yeah, fair enough, because there weren't any actually, funnily enough. Even if there were, I would have left them out. So what I did, for Tahir, I went back and I painted this little black cat.
Tahir's cat, now part of Lawrence forever, in Lawrence, the South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern News Week, we visit a subdivision with drainage issues which are causing concern and visit the Luma Light Festival held in Queenstown recently. So see you after the break. Welcome back. The Otago Fish and Game Council is concerned water runoff from a new Wanaka subdivision will pollute Bullock Creek. Queenstown Lakes District Council officers have assessed the stormwater and confirm it's clear and complies with the district plan and resource consent conditions. But critics are still concerned.
Stormwater runoff breaching a dam in the Meadowstone Alpha Series subdivision in Wanaka. The water eventually ending up in Bullock Creek, causing concern for Otago Fish and Game with the subdivision right next to its boundary.
Bullock Creek is a really valuable property which the people of Wanaka really respect. They've got Friends of Bullock Creek that look after it, and we're concerned about water quality from this.
Fish and Game say Bullock Creek is a sensitive environment fed by springs. Creeks like this aren't usually affected by stormwater flows. There's concern the situation will get worse as the subdivision isn't yet complete.
And we have to understand that probably only 50% of this development has had hardened surfaces. Most of the water's still going to ground. So when it's completed, we can expect to see probably double this amount of water in what is a relatively minor rainfall event.
Alpha Series developer Alan Dippy says the stormwater system is performing as designed and consented, and the water is testing clear. But Fish and Game say it's well documented where ground cover changes from absorbent farmland to hard surfaces like buildings and paths, the water can run off a lot quicker.
The moment you harden the surface, you concentrate it into a constant flow, and that means that you get increased runoff and accelerated runoff.
They're trying to encourage the council to stop further development until the stormwater issues are resolved. Dippy says the next stage of the project is to create a natural wetland to further enhance best management stormwater practice. In Wanaka, the South Today.
From frolicking fluorescent fairies to monsters of the deep, as soon as the sun went down, Queenstown Gardens was transformed into a lit-up wonderland over the long weekend. The 4th annual Luma Light Festival showcases dozens of light installations and close to 100 live performers.
Seeing in winter, Queenstown style, the annual Luma Light Festival kicked off in the resort on Friday night, showcasing dozens of light installations and live performances.
We've got everything from 9-year-old ballet dancers to contemporary professionals. We've got an amazing array of artists from around New Zealand, but also from overseas. And probably the community groups is the thing. I think the Pottery Club is probably one of the coolest things there.
The bright and bold Flame Entertainment Fairies were also back after dazzling the crowd at last year's festival. The event's now in its 4th year, with organisers pleased with its progress.
It started from a light and sculpture festival and is turning into a sensory experience that involves sound, dance, performance, light. It's a total immersion of the senses.
And after a week of consistent rain and threats of snow, organisers say the skies cleared just in time for the first lights to be switched on.
It's not ideal, but you go in with a good attitude, and we've got so many people who are professional. They just put on a raincoat and get on with it.
The festival wound up last night, with organisers hoping it attracted at least 50,000 people. In Queenstown, the South Today.
Ski fields around Queenstown and Wanaka are getting ready for the 2019 season. Last week's cold fronts brought snow to mountains and ski fields across the area, with Cardrona Alpine Resort opening on Saturday. But the weekend's wintry blast made for a low-key start to the skiing season.
Almost whiteout conditions and poor visibility, keeping the crowds away from Cardrona Alpine Resort, the first Southern Lakes ski field to open this year. Only about 200 visitors turned up on Saturday to play in the snow and take advantage of the free tobogganing on offer to children. But General Manager Bridget Legniewski is upbeat about the quiet start to the season.
Oh, it's just so good to be open. It's so good for it to be cold and snowing and actually feel like winter. And the staff are into it. It's just really nice, and it's easy because it's soft when you haven't gone and opened the whole resort. So it's kind of a soft, easy opening. People are out there, they're playing in the snow, they're enjoying it, and by the looks of the snow coming down and the snowmaking we're doing, we're going to get some runs open really soon.
With outdoors looking bleak and desolate, public and staff kept warm in some of the renovated indoor areas.
Our focus this year was all about trying to get better flow for the guests and more space for the guests, and that's what we've been working on. It's been a big project and it feels really good.
While the ski trails are still ungroomed and not ready for use, the McDougall's Chondola was operating for sightseers to take a ride up the mountain.
I'm going to go for a ride on the gondola. There's been a few people going up there, and I want to go and check with the snowmaking team and terrain team to see how they're going with developing the trails. It'll be great.
This coming weekend should see the Remarkables field also open, with Coronet Peak hoping to start in 2 weeks' time. Treble Cone isn't planning to be open until the end of the month. In Wanaka, for the South Today.
Hundreds of motorcyclists blazed a trail to a campsite at Central Otago's Ida Valley over Queen's birthday weekend. Although the conditions overnight were described as freezing, the weather for the 39th Brass Monkey Rally was an improvement on last year's almost Antarctic conditions.
Keeping warm around the fire while camping out on the exposed Maniototo Plains. This weekend's Brass Monkey Rally drew around 1,000 hardy motorcyclists to the 39th annual event at Otarahua in Central Otago.
Well, we had 500 pre-entries for this year, which is actually pretty good going. Last year we had similar.
Despite the tough-looking motorbikes and leather-clad riders, Willems says the event is for the whole family.
We actually had a young kid just hop on the bike from the car park and came in. He's just turned 14. This is his 14th birthday, and he's making the effort to come here. And he rode through there, came in on this rally site, and he's going to spend the whole night here with his family.
The first Brass Monkey was in 1980, and each year has seen hundreds, sometimes thousands of hardy souls ride their motorbikes to the windswept Idaburn campsite.
As far as professions, it's anybody. You put your helmet on, you can be anybody. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, you can be a secretary. We've got some women coming in here as well that are riding, which is great to see.
The event is a highlight on many riders' calendars and draws people from across New Zealand.
I've taken 2 weeks off, but I've come down from Te Awamutu in the Waikato just south of Hamilton and tying this in on a 2-week holiday tour around.
Last year saw the temperature drop as low as minus 11 degrees, but this year's drizzle and overcast skies kept the severe frosts away, and organisers are happy with the turnout. At Idaburn Dam, for the South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern News Week, work begins on another stretch of the cycle trails in Central Otago, and we meet those behind a charity fundraising event which aims to frighten people till they wet themselves. Welcome back. The next chapter in Central Otago's multi-million-dollar cycle trail development has been officially signed off in Cromwell. Construction of the Lake Dunstan Cycle Trail is scheduled to begin soon, beginning with the sod turning ceremony overlooking Lake Dunstan.
Turning the sod before the diggers move in. Construction of the 54-kilometre first stage of the Lake Dunstan Cycle Trail near Cromwell set to begin this week. The start of the project celebrated with a sod turning ceremony.
I'm always excited about building trails basically because I've been involved since 2008 I think I started down in the Roxburgh Gorge, and I was involved to a lesser degree on the Clutha Gold Trail, and they started in 2006. So I can see huge benefits to the community when we get finished building these trails. It's all about health and it's about tourism as well. Sustainable tourism.
Trail Network Trust Chairman Stephen Jeffrey says they're looking forward to the work being completed.
I'm probably not as excited as I will be when we're finished, but I'm still excited to get started.
The trail begins at Smith's Way and leads to the Dunstan Arm Rowing Club near the Clyde Dam. The development consultants say the Central Otago landscape is perfect for cycle trails.
Down the Cromwell Gorge, it's that arid climate with lots of rocky bluffs and steep hillsides in the lake, and we'll be looking to showcase that in the trail, including trail across rock faces, which will be quite unique in a cycle trail sense, as well as traditional cycle trail.
Tim Dennis says the project has been a long time coming and when completed will be part of the 536-kilometre cycle trail network.
Oh, it's outstanding.
Yeah.
I've been working on these combined trail projects here since 2013 and to see it finally get started is exceptional.
The project is split into 5 stages and has an estimated cost of $26 million. In Central Otago, the South Today.
One of Dunedin's best-known restaurateurs has now swapped his chef's hat for a business one. Michael Coughlin has been spending the last few years promoting provenance meat, which encourages farming in an organically sensitive and sustainable way.
Working out the evening's menu, Michael Coughlin, the one-time chef of Pier 24, is now out and about promoting his selection of meats to kitchens such as Awamaru's Cucina restaurant. And while he hasn't worked full-time in a kitchen for over 4 years, he's always keen to roll up his sleeves to cook a promotional meal.
Okay, so the lamb dish tonight, we've got some lamb topside that we're going to slow cook in the sous vide to a medium rare. It's got a horopito and fennel salt. Along with that, to give a different texture, we've got a lamb belly that's been slow cooked down, pressed, and then it's been turned into a little croquette with some panko and spring onion. To complement, we've got some smoked miso and cauliflower puree. Brings a nice umami and a slightly nuttiness to the dish. On top of that, we have got some pickled mushrooms. These are shiitake mushrooms that have been sort of cooked down and pickled in mirin and rice wine vinegar with some soy and ginger, and that'll just bring some nice earthiness to the dish as well.
Awamaru restaurateur Pablo Tacchini originally hails from Argentina, but he's enjoying including some locally grown ingredients on his menu.
I try to use local produce as much as possible, so it all depends on the season. Tonight I'm gonna be smoking the lamb, and I'm gonna make it into a ravioli. So we're using a little bit of beetroot in our pasta dough as well. Yeah.
His Cucina restaurant uses char grill cooking to retain as much fat in the meat as possible.
We always char grill. We try to keep as much of the fats as possible. We love to use the fats. It gives a really nice texture and flavor.
Coughlin's an ambassador for Otago producer Provenance Meat and says he's trying to encourage farms to move away from a reliance on agri-chemicals. And while rump cuts are one of the easiest to use in the kitchen, his company are promoting secondary cuts of meat as well.
Yeah, the topside's one of those cuts not very seldom used these days, and we've sort of introduced it into our price schedule there to try and sort of navigate chefs away from the lamb rump, which seems to be the most popular cut, and this just gives chefs a little bit more versatile playing around with. So it comes off the leg. Generally, if you look at a leg, the first piece that comes off is a rump, then there's the top side that just sits underneath on the inside of the leg there. So we're pulling that off separately to the leg because we think it actually deserves a lot more attention and as a premium cut rather than a secondary cut attached to a leg.
He says when meat isn't a prime cut, it will require extra care and thought to go into the preparation.
It is quite a coarser texture, so you do have to be careful with it. This is why you can either quick cook it and rest it out, so keep it really rare, but we find that sous vide, so we're going to be cooking it on sous vide at about 56.5 degrees for 2.5 hours, and that will break down the connective tissue, and then we'll just reflash it again. So it's in the pouches there, we've sealed them off, and I put them in with a bit of rendered lamb fat when we did the belly, just to sort of get some more flavour in there. We'll take them out of the sous vide, brush them with a little bit of horopito and fennel salt, back on the char grill, give them a nice little smoky blackening.
Provenance Meat are already selling small quantities in specialty stores and online, and have just filled their first exports to Asia. They also hope to eventually sell some of their meat cuts in South Island supermarkets. In Awamaru, for the South Today.
A pop-up horror-themed maze in Dunedin is raising funds for local charities. Fear New Zealand's latest scary offering, Warehouse of Fear, is in the old Lona Mercantile building next to the city's steamer basin.
Testing some moves to frighten the wits out of visitors. The fundraising charity Fear NZ are bringing their successful warehouse-themed event from Wellington to the former go-kart building at Dunedin's waterfront. The event features about 60 volunteer actors turned into horror creatures by a team of student makeup artists from Otago Polytechnic.
They can expect just about every fear and phobia that you could possibly think of. So yeah, we're just testing everyone's fear. You know, there's claustrophobia in there, and there's medical things, and yeah, sights and sounds to be enjoyed by everyone.
With so many frightening scenarios on hand, Visitors are given a gesture and a safe word in case things get just too scary.
So if you don't like particular scare, so just pop your hands up and say, that's no, not for me. My actors will turn away. But if you cannot carry on, the safety word's purple, and as soon as you say that, the masks come off, we take you by the hand, and we have cameras everywhere watching you, and a security guard will come and take you out.
And the experience is more disturbing than most visitors expect.
Our last event we had 56 purples, so yeah, and we had 10 people wet themselves too, so yeah. And we pride ourselves on wetting. That's what our actors kind of gun for, is to say they've got a purple or a wetting, so yeah.
The Horror Maze is raising money for Camp Quality South and Ariki Athletics, and is already sold out this coming weekend, but will be open for bookings for the next 2 weekends. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, subscribe to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Have a lovely evening. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.